Is this a trick question?
Hi everyone, I'm the Broken Meeple. Win or lose, I'm going to be honest with you. And this time we're back to some top 10 lists, which have been somewhat dormant for a while, except for obviously the top 10 of the year. Well, the top 50, a bunch of Essen games. Because of the way that board games are kind of seasonal, it's very difficult to fit in any top 10 lists during Essen season. So they kind of have to sit on the back seat for that period and then get put on more during, well, now until, the Essen season starts again. So, yeah, it's about time, so thanks for waiting, and we're going to start with my top 10 trick takers. Yes, I've definitely been reviewing a few of these in recent months, and also, trick taking is just a mechanic I really like, but it's not without its flaws, because trick taking has kind of gone the way of, say, roll and moves, where they're a dime a dozen. You look around and there's a ton of things that are trying to use trick taking, and we've got to the point now where games are starting to veer away from trick taking as the core mechanic and slot it in as like a byproduct of another game. Now, occasionally that works, but then also occasionally it falls hard in its face. Works.
Tell them I hate them.
And, so I much prefer the games where they don't shoehorn it in as another mechanic. That being said, there are the one or two that have actually done a half-decent job of it, but will they be on this list? We'll have to see. But certainly when you go on Board Game Geek and look at the rankings for trick takers, it drops rather suddenly, doesn't it? They're not the most popular game out there, are they? They're fun to play, people enjoy them. Quite a few people still don't know what trick taking even means, but when you look at the board game ranking, you can see like 99, 100, 150, 2,000, 3,000. It quickly drops to the thousands when it's looking at some of these games. And granted, when it comes to trick taking, there's a lot of garbage ones out there. It's difficult to make a trick-taking game unique, interesting, different, or just, to get it exactly right. You can make a god-awful trick-taker, or worse, one that's boring. One that you just play and you just go, well, that was a thing, I guess. Nah, they gotta be different in some way. So these are my 10 favorites. I own quite a few trick takers. I would say I own a good 15 to 20 trick takers in my collection, or at least 15 to 20 games in my collection that have trick taking as a core mechanic, and I've played more besides. So this was a good fun list to do. So without further ado, crack on.
Get on with it.
My number 10 is one of the most traditional trick takers I think I got on this list. I was umming and ahhing between two, and I decided that this one deserved the 10 spot because it's a lot easier to get to the table than the other one. So the honourable mention of which one fell off was Shamans, a quirky trick taker with social deduction and traitor mechanics in it, which is like, a little bit different. It's just not impossible to teach people. This one though, dirt simple. 90% of the game is pretty much every trick taker you've ever played. It's just nice and simple, but has a quirky little addition to it, and that is the forgotten, I believe. I mean, I never see anybody play this anymore. Diamonds. Yeah, not to be confused with like hearts or, any of those little classics there. This one is just a simple little trick taker where you have normal cards, clubs and hearts and spades, they're numbered 1 to 15, so they go up a little bit higher. But basically, you are grabbing little crystals, and you're trying to score via those. Put them in your little safe, put them behind your screen. So you got all these little plastic crystals that you're grabbing for. But the idea is that you play trick taking in a normal fashion, but when you can't play the suit, to follow suit, you get to perform an action based on what suit the card is. And then when you get to the end of the round, depending on your position, you'll get to perform other suit actions as well. And if you go for that classic shoot the moon style thing of winning no tricks, you get to do 2 of the more powerful suit action while you're at it. Diamonds is kind of like the big one, the main one that you want to try and get. It's very straightforward to teach people. It can overstay its welcome a little bit if you play all the rounds it suggests, especially with 6 players on the go, but it's an easy one to teach, because other than those suit actions, everything else is your bare bones standard trick taker. All those rules come into play as per normal. You're just throwing on a little bit of an extra, little crystal mechanic on the side, and people get it instantly. It's also one of the few that plays up to 6 players. You know, I mean, if you dare. I'm not a huge fan of playing this at the highest count, but you know, most trick takers usually go up to 5. You know, maybe even only 4. 6 is not a common number. This one made a bit of a splash when it came out, and this is a second edition of it, but I haven't heard anybody talk about this or play this in years. So occasionally I do like to bring this one out and just to show people it does still exist. So nice and simple, you know, nice and simple rules with a nice little twist on top. You know, if you want to teach the absolute basics of trick taking again to somebody, but just not have it be the most basic trick taker ever, Diamonds will do you nicely.
How about new?
My number 9 is a recent trick taker. I think I played it last year. I think I only got it at Essen last year. I didn't do a full review of it. I think I talked about it on the podcast, I want to say. I certainly don't think I've done a speed review for this one. And it's a trick taker that we've kind of seen these mechanics before, but the way this one works does make it quite a cool experience, and that is Tax the Rich. This one is one where essentially you bid on like how many tricks you think you're going to win, and then choose a partner for the round, so you are effectively teamed up with someone else. The cards themselves are things like, you know, doctors and teachers and scientists and billionaire, that kind of thing, and you play a typical trick taker, so, you know, follow suit and play cards and rank, you know, high ranking and that. But the idea is that the character cards themselves have got special abilities, and as the game goes on you reveal more of them, so they come into play and make it a little bit more quirky. Not to the same extent as that insane origin story game. You know, I did a review for that one. You can check that one out to hear a rant or two.
He's out of line, but he's right.
This one sort of like brings them in slowly and gets used to it. But on top of the normal trick-taking element, you've also got this cool idea that some of the cards are feminist cards and some of them are, I can't remember, like working class cards, I forget what they call it. And the idea is that these ones, if you end up with your hand full of nothing but these particular cards, you can declare a feminist revolution or workers' revolution, and essentially, like, the rules for the round change a little bit more.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed, bloody peasant!
It introduces cool ways that the game arc for a round can change up, but the rules themselves are not complicated, the abilities on the characters are not complicated, it's relatively quick, you know, it's a fairly speedy trick taker, and it does the job nicely of just kind of giving you similar things to what you felt before, you know, a few weird little abilities that dynamically changed around, but also different team-ups, different numbers of, different trump suits, different numbers of tricks that you're bidding for, and of course that, you know, crazy thing of one of the revolutions taking place and suddenly the rules for all the cards change dramatically and influence the rest of the round. It's a pretty neat one. I only got it last year, but it's so far been a pretty good hit for me. Tax the Rich. And now we come to the most elusive trick taker in my collection. I mean, even more so than one coming up later. But this one took a long time for me to get. I had to search high and low for this. I'm not even entirely sure how I got it in the end. I can't remember if I found it on eBay or got or import. No, I didn't import it. I think I must have just got lucky on a Brin and Buy. Like, a Brin and Buy just had this game. I thought, buy it, grab it, or maybe some supplier had it. I honestly can't remember. All I know is that I finally got a copy, which after playing it several times, I wanted my own copy and then it went out of print, which was really annoying. This one though basically has players bidding on, well, not bidding, taking it in turns to dictate what the rules of the round are gonna be, and that is the ever impossible to find Niet. Niet from Yellow Games is one where basically you have teammates during each round, but the idea is that you've got a board, which effectively, I must admit, sorry for not getting the Tax the Rich cards out of the box, I really should have, but this one basically has this board here that determines things like the first player, you know, what you discard, whether you pass left, you know, what's a trump suit, what's a super trump, you know, how many points things are worth and that. And the idea is that you take it in turns to cover these up. Once you've covered up all but one of these on each particular row, this effectively dictates the rules for the round. So that player's going first, you're discarding 2 cards, this is the trump suit, that's a super trump, and this is how many points the cards are worth. You know, it's a really cool system, but it has you basically looking at your hand and trying to influence what the rules for the next hand of cards are. Other than that, it's kind of standard affair. I mean, the artwork is very nice, though. I mean, it is Yellow Games after all, so this stuff does look pretty decent. It's definitely playing out in that kind of well, you know, Soviet Union type thing, but with animals, because everything's got to be animals these days. But yeah, it doesn't take a lot of rules explaining. You know, most of these things that you're scratching off effectively are easy enough to come by. Comes in a nice little sealed box. It's that classic style of yeah, the magnetic box as they normally do. 30 minutes, 2 to 5. Best played with 4 though. That's the main problem this game has, is it can work with 3 and 5, but I do think that this is one that you pull out when you go, ooh, I've got 4 players for a trick-taking game. Okay, give me a second. And then you find this one. And this one is just a cool, solid game, which was not impossible to find, because nobody was selling it, you know, and anybody who had it wasn't gonna sell it. So it was a case of, well, you know, find it quickly. And I really still can't remember how I found it. Must have been a Bring and Buy. I can only think I got lucky on a Bring and Buy because nobody was retailing this game for ages and ages. So once I was able to get a copy, phew, thankfully, it now sits on my shelf and it ain't ever gonna leave.
Das vidanya, comrade!
Number 7, this is a new one. In fact, when did I pick this up? I think I only picked this up at HandyCon this year. It's been out for probably about a year, or I think it's about a year or two. I'll find out in a second. But the idea is that I just didn't really grab this one when I first saw it at the UK Games Expo, and then it wasn't necessarily one that was easy to get hold of straight afterwards, and then I just completely forgot it existed until I decided, right, I need to grab some more Trick Takers and have some fun with that. And I thought, oh yeah, what was that one at the Expo that I fancied? Well, this is it. And it's called Luz. Lu. I'm not entirely certain what the pronunciation of it is. I think it's meant to mean light or something. That's what somebody told me. And the idea with this one is that this one gives you flashbacks to old Hanabi, or the Tribes of the Wind game that I've been like singing the praises of. So this one is not only like really nice colourful cards. I really like these. These are nice to sleeve and have out.
I think she's pretty.
Quiet, bud.
So the idea with this one is that you basically get given a bunch of cards at the start of a round. So let's say I got, let's just say I got these ones, for example. So you look at these and you go, right, let's organise them in ascending order. Also, right, so there go, that one over there, ascend. You put this helper card on the side that denotes whether it was ascending or descending order, and then you give the hand to the player to your left. Wait, what? You get given a hand from the player from your right, and then they give you the hand so it looks a bit like this. I can only see the backs of the cards. Everybody else can see the front. And the same goes for everyone else that you can see. So it plays out a bit like that Hanabi game, where you don't know what you have entirely, but you know what everyone else has. There's some cards out, so you don't have perfect information, but then you play the you bid on how many tricks you think you're going to win, and play the trick taker game based on that. So when people play cards, you can look around and go, well, there's some greens out of play there, and I don't know what those numbers are. You've got a bunch of high ones there, you've got one there, but you're missing the 9. Could this be my 9? Or is the 9 out there? And if the 9's out there, that means this is probably only like a 4 and a 1. I don't know. So do I want to play my lowest card? Do I want to play my highest card? And it particularly matters when you've got lots of a colour. And it just adds a really cool little decision-making process to the game. You know, again, a unique way to play a trick taker, but it makes for some good, tense, you know, decisions that you're going to make during the game. The only thing I'm not a fan of, though, and that is, it's not a huge blemish, but it is a little bit of a blemish, is that the scoring mechanism in this is one where you play 4 rounds, and the later rounds are worth more points than the ones that are earlier. I wish they'd found a different way to do the scoring, because that kind of makes the first couple of rounds not feel that interesting or useful, because you know that even though you did well to start with, all it takes is for you to do bad after that, and somebody to do really well on the last round, and they'll probably still beat you. So it's a bit of a niggle. I wish they'd found a different way, but that bit aside, this is still a very cool trick taker. Not too difficult to teach. I mean, once people get the hang of holding cards in their hand, and certainly you do want people that are comfortable to hold a fan of cards in their hand, but other than that, this one is a nice, cool twist to the mechanic. Although, wow, you want to talk about like crazy mechanics with this one? Look no further than my number 6. This one I didn't even believe was a thing. Like, how on earth do you combine this mechanic with trick taking and make it work? Freedom and Freeze has a habit of making really weird, quirky games that just seem to click, and this one is no exception, because it was played, I think, at a previous HandyCon. I want to say, maybe the one in October last year, maybe the one before that, but the idea was that this one couldn't find a copy of it, and then it came back into print, and I grabbed it then, and this is the weird, quirky Fishing. Yeah, fishing or fission, depending which language you want. This one has a weird combination. Effectively deck building with trick taking. Huh? How the hell? Well, this one works with basically, to start with, you have a bunch of cards that are all normal. So they basically are just numbered, you know, like 1 to 8 or 1 to 10 or something in 4 different suits, and you play trick taking as normal, no special rules whatsoever. Okay? Well, where's the trick here? Or where's the catch? And I do not mean the pun, that is not a pun with the game called Fishing. But the idea is that basically you have a deck of cards which are essentially bonus cards. I'm trying to get them out without separating them all in here. That is the problem with this box. It's not big enough to hold sleeve cards very well. So here we go. So these bonus cards are like trump suits. They've got special abilities. They're ridiculously high rank. You know, they're awesome cards, and you lay them out at the start of the game like in one big deck. But what happens is each round you have a increasing hand size. You take all your tricks that you've got. You'll have 2 cards in front of you, a fishing card and a boat card, and all the tricks that you win you put on your left hand side, and that is what you caught during a round. You're fishing basically. And then this goes into your right hand side pile as a deck of cards shuffled up. You then draw from that deck your hand for the next round. But if you don't have enough cards in your deck to make up the hand size limit, then you have to draw them from the bonus card deck. So the worse you do in a particular round, the more bonus cards you get for the next one. But they get gradually better in power. And if you have a situation where you win so many tricks in one hand, your deck's going to be huge. It's going to take you a couple of rounds before you even draw any more bonus cards. But they're going to be circulating around, and there are some cards that let you sort of nick them from other players when they play the trick. You know, it can be quite mean, this one, sometimes. And it's a really weird system, but it works. You know, you play through 8 rounds, and these abilities can, you know, lead to some pretty good laughs. You know, they're not too complicated. They're pretty easy to deal with. And you have to kind of balance how you win or lose. You know, you don't want to lose like crazy, because yes, you'll draw a bunch of bonus cards, but then you're going to have a round where you win like crazy, and then you won't get many points for the next few rounds because you will struggle to be able to win with whatever reject cards you got left in your deck. You want to try and win some and lose some, and try and keep an equal balance of drawing some bonus cards while also, you know, keeping some good ones for yourself, but also winning some points, you know, winning some tricks. But it's very difficult to do that. You'll have some rounds that are skewed in one different fashion, and it really does change the game arc as to, you know, one round this person's going to dominate, next round this one's going to dominate. And because you draw from a deck of cards, yes, you've got all these really cool cards. It doesn't necessarily mean you have them all available next round, though. And other people will be thinking that. It's like, well, I could play this one, but I know that 16 is around in there. I'm playing this 15, but did you draw it? Have you drawn it from your deck? I don't know. You haven't played it yet. So maybe I'm going to take the chance and play it. And lo and behold, he didn't have it. Fantastic. And it leads to some cool decisions that you make based for what cards you do. But man, does it get amusing with the scores and how many tricks people win in different rounds. There's 2 little flaws with this one, which is why it's not higher. Firstly, it is very difficult to gauge how well you're doing because the points vary so dramatically from round to round that it's hard to say that somebody's really going to just walk away with the game until the very last round, because God knows what will happen in that time. The other one is that this is definitely on the longer side of the trick takers I have. This one and one other definitely are the longest of my trick takers, and I do wish it was a bit shorter. It says 40 minutes on the box. That's optimistic in itself. You're playing this for a good hour usually. By the time you've taught it and played through 8 rounds of this, particularly with 4 or 5 players, you know, you're spending a good hour playing this. And it'll be a good, fun hour. It's a solid game. And I do wish it was a bigger box, you know, to hold sleeve cards in a much better fashion. But yeah, it could be a little... Oh yeah, and I don't even think it has a score pad in it. Yeah, that doesn't help either. So you basically have to... Yeah, there's no score pad, so you have to total up the points as you go along by some other means. So, you know, certainly components could have been slightly better, but it's a neat game. Very interesting idea, very different. So I do enjoy bringing someone out every now and again, but you're going to need to make it part of your game night and not just a little filler.
Uh-oh. Oh.
Number 5, I owe a chap I know from Dranda Games, Mubin. I need to thank him for showing me this one. I'd never heard of it. And this guy actually showed me another trick taker as well that I really like. And the idea with this is that he just told me about it. It's like, okay, this is a trick taker. You've never heard of this one? Go grab it. It's from Good Games, Good Games Publishing have it on their stall. I don't think they originally published it. I'm pretty sure it was somebody else, but they just happened to have it on their store, and it was selling so cheap. It was like 10 quid, if that, or 10 euro. It was stupidly cheap. I thought, yeah, I'm buying it. I don't care. You've recommended it. You already recommended the great one to me already, and you know what? It's a small box trick taker. This is called 7 Prophecies. Now, I'm a little bit confused by the number 5 on it. I'm guessing this is part of a series, but is it a series of trick takers or just a series of small games? I'm not entirely sure. Hinata Origuchi, I think that's the name of the designer. I'm curious about this leather games, but this is a foreign language one, so I had to basically get English rules for this and make certain I knew how to play it. But the rules are straightforward, but it's interesting. This is a trick taker where you know how the round is going to play out in advance. Well, where's the suspense? Well, this is where you are basically guessing how many tricks you're going to win, come second in, come third in, and come fourth in. What the hell are you talking about? Yes, let me explain a little bit more with illustration. So you've got these cards, and they are standard cards. Your numbers 1 to 11 or 1 to 12 in the respective suits. But the idea is that there are, you have a little thing in front of you which basically has first, second, third, and fourth on it, and you'll have a bunch of cubes. What you do is you effectively place cubes behind a screen in secret of your color. I'm just going to use any old cubes, I don't care with the color at this point. And you're basically trying to guess, right, I reckon I'm going to win 2 tricks, I'm probably going to come second in 1, not win a third, come last in a couple, and so forth. And you do this in secret, and then they're all revealed. And then you play through the round trying to unload your cubes from the first, second, third, and fourth podium cards. So you're trying to kind of dictate how well you do in every trick of the hand you play. But how can you base any kind of knowledge on this? Well, it's because, if I can get them out, where are they? Color cards. There are, here we go, a bunch of color cards for the various suits, and you lay them out in shuffled random order, face up, in kind of like a grid system. So you got first, second, third, fourth, with your cubes on it, and along the top you have these color cards. These dictate the trump suit for that particular hand. So you know in advance when the trumps are going to be in effect, and you know what cards you have in your hand. So based on that, you're trying to gauge that I reckon I'm going to win 3 tricks, come second in 2, come third in 2, and I won't lose outright another trick. And then you play trick taking in normal fashion, except it dictates the trump suit. So it's called 7 Prophecies on the idea that you are kind of predicting exactly how the round's going to go because you already know a lot of the information about the round itself. Of course, you got to contend with all the other players, and this is where the back and forth comes in. But it's a really neat little system where you're not just simply predicting how many tricks you got to win, you're predicting what position you come in the tricks. So when a card gets played, you actually might have a choice of thinking, well, I could win this one, but based on what's coming up and based on how the rest of my hand is looking, maybe this is the one I should actually lose and maybe come in later with that. And this allows you to kind of manipulate, whether you're winning and losing certain tricks based on what other people play, but you'll get a certain amount of points based on how quickly you can get all your cubes off those podium spots, and then it's just first person to 7. So the game doesn't take too long to play, but wow, this is definitely one of the most unique trick takers I have played in terms of, how it works with the whole predicting tricks mechanic. Because most of the time it's, I predict I will win this many tricks. Well, we're going to get another one later that has a similar sort of a uniqueness to it, but this one was quirky, interesting, and dirt cheap. So another good recommendation from my buddy over at Dranda. But yeah, solid pick. 7 Prophecies. If you can find this, even if it's in its old version, because I think this is the newest version of it and it's had 1 or 2 iterations before, give it a try.
What am I, psychic?
Number 4. This one is a 2-player only trick-taking game. You can only play this with 2. No more, no less. And a lot of you have probably figured out what it is by now, because I'm banking some cash, not all cash, that this is the only 2-player only trick-taking game in existence. Maybe there's another one, I don't know, but this is definitely the popular one. And I've been putting some of my games in these little cases from like Hobbycraft when I feel like they can store in another box. It frees up some space on my shelf. But this is Fox in the Forest here. So this one, if I can get it open, because I must admit, I do forget how these things open. Oh, there they are. I was going to say, idiot. And the idea is that I have got the normal and the co-op version in here. So you can play it either way. And both of them are legit, really good ways to play the game. But I was able to get both of them in this one box. The idea being that you essentially play a trick taker as, you know, normal between the two of you, but they've got, you know, some cards have got special abilities and nice artwork, and the rest of them are just generic cards. The co-op one requires you to move along the track and unload tokens before the round ends, but the co-op one's good. I think my favourite is the competitive version though, and this one basically has you trying to score a certain number of tricks in the round, but the scoring system is rather unique. If I can find the scoring card.
3 days later.
Realised I had the wrong set of cards. But the idea with the competitive one is that you're trying to win a certain number of tricks in a round. So with here, you get you have to go to 21 points, and the scoring reference is kind of based on a kind of roller coaster curve. So if you only win 0 to 3 tricks in a round, you get 6 points. Really good, humble. But then when you win 4 tricks, you only get 1 point. Then 2 points for 5, 3 points for 6, 6 points for 7 to 9, so a good balance in the middle. But then if you get 10 to 13 tricks, you get no points. You're greedy. And this is the thing. So sometimes you're trying to get a balance of tricks. You want to win more tricks than the opponent, and you've only got, I believe, 13 tricks to play. So you're trying to end up with a balance but slightly more than the opponent, or you're trying to shoot the moon for very few tricks, because if you win too many, you get penalized for it. And this one has very straightforward abilities. You've got a decree card that dictates the trump and things like that, but it's 2-player only. So you play back and forth with an opponent, and you can sort of think, right, what are they likely to do? Are they going to usurp me there? And depending on what tricks get won, it's like, oh, blimey, you've had a pretty good start. You're winning a lot of tricks here. You're already at 6 tricks. Can I make you go over then? Can I make you go over the 10 spot? You know what? Fine, we're in it to lose it. And, you know, this creates a really cool dynamic when you play each round. It's just a cool, solid system, and it works. For 2 players, this system works perfectly. I think there's a deluxe version coming out soon with some mini expansions. I'm going to be interested to get that, actually, and see how it fares. But, yeah, seriously, if you like trick takers, but you're like, there's only 2 of us, what are we going to play? Find Fox in the Forest. It is designed for 2, it works at 2, it's not like all these other trick takers where they go, right, it's 3 to 5, but here's a weird 2-player variant where it's like weird and cheesy and 90% of the time doesn't work properly. This one is designed as 2, and whether you get the competitive or the co-op one, you're in with a solid game here.
I'm British, I drink tea, and I dank me ginger nuts.
Right, you want something weirder than the 2-player only trick-taking game? Well, without too much of an introduction, this is one that I only managed to acquire last year, but I have played it plenty of times since. If 2-player was already weird enough for you, how about a solo-only trick-taker? Yeah, this tiny little box, very well produced, for Northwood, has just won me over. 1 player only. It's only solo. You can't play it any other way. 20 minutes is optimistic as hell for actually playing this, but this one, great little box, nice cards. I mean, you want to sleeve it, but I'm not convinced you could actually fit sleeve cards in the box. I mean, maybe if they're standard size sleeves, you know, not premium, but I think you would struggle to get even sleeve kings in there, really. It would be too tight, but these cards are, you know, decent enough quality, so I think they're going to last the time, and they're white bordered, so you won't notice them fraying as much. But this is cool. I mean, how the hell does solo work? Well, you essentially are trying to win favor with a bunch of these different character cards, and they have like different trump suits that they like. You also have one of each of the suits in front of you as kind of like special abilities that you can trigger. So draw 2, then discard 2. Draw cards 1 at a time until you draw 1 of the ruler's suit. Draw the top card from the deck, the discard pile, and the score pile. You know, basically card shenanigans like you've seen before. And you get points for winning favor with certain rulers based on how many tricks you're supposed to win with them. It could be lots of points for something that's quite extreme, not many points for one that's in the middle that's quite easy to do. But the idea is that you see your hand of cards, you decide which ruler you want to do, and then the deck of cards basically goes first every time. Flips a card, you react to it. It flips a card, you react to it. But you use the abilities of these rulers that you've got at the start of the game, and your knowledge of trick taking and how many tricks you're trying to win to try and get it exact. But on top of that, the ones that you win favor with during the game, you can actually, for a round, opt to use one of them as a temporary one-off power for that round only. So you get more special powers as the game goes on, and you're trying to win so many of these these favors so that you get a certain amount of points. It's not the easiest game in the world, but it's certainly a very good fun one, and just really, really interesting and unique. I got a feeling this was part of like a competition or something, wasn't it? Let's have a look. But it said award winning. I'm pretty certain this was something to do with like one of those like designer things at the expo or somewhere else, where you basically had to design a game with only so many cards or something like that. And this one was apparently an award-winning one. And yeah, I'm not surprised. This is just such a cool game. It is well produced. It's easy to play. The card quality and like the feel of them and everything is absolutely gorgeous. In fact, actually, is this a Chronicle thing? Nope, that's a rule. I can't take that out. I wish I could sleeve this easier, but I'll be curious. If you've got this game and you've managed to sleeve it and fit it in this box, what sleeves and what size did you use in order to do that? But man, a solo trick taker game. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? But it's happened, it works, and it is great.
I'm so lonely.
Number 2 is a slight cheat because I'm putting 2 on here because frankly, let's be honest, they're pretty much that same game, aren't they? I do prefer one over the other, much like I did with Seven Wonders Duel in a similar fashion. Both games are really solid. It's just I can only really own one, and I choose to own this one, even though I will play the alternate version when my friend has it. So, it's pick your poison, really. But this one is, again, we're going with quirkiness for these trick takers, a co-op trick-taking game. Of course, I'm talking about The Crew, and I prefer Mission Deep Sea. I've got it in one of these funky cases as well. Deep Sea, if you can get it. I mean, Planet 9 is fine, but I think the mission criteria and how they're selected is easier to grok in Deep Sea. But this, basically, and well, which one are you combining it with, Luke? I'm combining it with the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game. Because, let's face it, they're practically the same game, really. It's a co-op. You're trying to win certain tricks and certain patterns as a team. The scenario will give you some restrictions or some missions as to what you're planning to do. Like, somebody's got to win only one trick. Somebody's got to win certain cards and the like. And with Mission Deep Sea, you basically draw cards off a deck, and it will give you stuff like, I will win the 3 of black, the 3 trump card. I will win the 6 and 7 of blue. I will win this. I will win no pink cards. I will win more tricks than anyone else. These kind of little missions. And you draw so many based on the difficulty of the scenario you're doing. Lord of the Rings, same sort of deal. You play through a story of, the Lord of the Rings, and you have Frodo and Sam, and they have their own criteria. You choose which character you want, and then based on those characters and whatever chapter it is you're doing, you play cooperatively to fulfill the criteria. Yeah, they are pretty much the same game here, guys, alright? But both of them are fantastic. I tried the solo mode in the Lord of the Rings one, and I found it too much of a puzzle rather than a trick taker, and I don't know, I just didn't really get into it. Plus, the whole idea that you're playing through chapters and it gives you like a little story bit, it's like, what does it matter? It's a freaking trick taker. But the Lord of the Rings one does get a little repetitive. The missions and the criteria that you have to do in those chapters, I've played through I think 10 or 11 in the first one. I haven't played Two Towers. And they do feel a bit samey. Like, you're kind of doing the same thing a lot of the time. You just might have one little twist with the rules. This one, though, those mission cards that you flip over and deck can create some interesting combinations of what you're trying to do. It's just more varied, and therefore I prefer, personally, The Crew Deep Sea as my choice. But honestly, pick your poison. I mean, if you are obsessed with Lord of the Rings, I love Lord of the Rings, but, if you're obsessed with it and you want to play that version instead, then go play that version. I'm not a big fan of the artwork in it either. I know it's a style thing, but the art in it feels very Renaissance-y painting style art, and I really don't like that. But I don't know, that's just a minor quibble. But if my friend has it and it's the trick taker we have on offer, I will gladly play it, and I will have a solid amount of fun, providing we play through some of the later chapters. But if you're going to pick one, it's the Crew Mission Deep Sea. And I know that they're thinking of bringing out another one. Why? This is as good as it's going to get. How else are you going to improve on it? But feels like it's milking a cash cow here. But I don't know, we'll wait and see. The Crew, though, my number 2.
Throw yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity.
And now we have my number 1, and a lot of you will guess this. Yes, my friend at Drowner Games recommended this one to me. I played this several years ago, and then I couldn't find a copy of it forever. It occasionally appeared at Essen, and it was in limited supply. You had to queue for like an hour and a half and, you know, get like one of 20 copies. Screw that for a game of toy soldiers. Basically overpaid to get this from an English retailer who imports games. So I paid a lot for this game. And when I've played it with people who are those types who like to bend cards or whatever, I will flip my lid and I will ban them from playing with this game for the amount it cost me. But this is a truly unique, really cool, very thinky trick taker. If anything is wrong with it, it's just that it's a bit long. It's like the fishing game I mentioned before. But wow, did I fall in love with this like 10 minutes into the first game of this I ever played, and then I was desperate to grab a copy. This is a fantastic trick taker, and you know, yeah, a lot of it is in a foreign language, but I'll try to explain briefly because it takes a little bit. You essentially have a bunch of dice. So you draw dice and you draft them before the round starts, and these are basically in the different colours, numbered 1 to 6. They're rolled and you take it in turns to grab some. You will end up with 4 of them on your board, right? And you'll arrange them as such. And the idea is that the one that is left over represents the trump, suit and number. So let's say it's a 6 yellow. That means that yellows are trumps and so is a 6. And you've got a little ranking criteria to say that if you match the exact die, it's the strongest trump you can get. If you match the same number, then it's the next best trump, and if you match the color, it's the 3rd best trump, and then after that it's just lead color and standard trick taking rules. So you're playing tricks, and these dice can be like cards in your hand, which are public information. You know what dice everybody took, and so they know that you've got a 3 blue, a 4 yellow and a 6 green. So that's already a cool twist. But here's the next bit. You are trying to win a certain number of tricks in a round. Well, what number is that? The number is the final die on your board after 3 of them have been played during the round. You don't play a last die. This determines how many tricks you gotta win. So I just had a bunch of dice here with 5, 4, 3 and a 4. So I might be thinking, well, you know what? I'm feeling confident. I can probably win 5. It's not going too well for me. Okay, play that. Play some cards. Okay. All right. I don't think I'm going to win 5 at this rate. You know what? Play the 5 before I get forced into it. I'm running out of blues, though, and if somebody plays a blue, I'm going to have to play my 3. I don't think I'm going to get that, so I'm going to lead with a 4 green. Right, so I now got to win 3 tricks. I'm all right on that. I've only won 3 tricks. Just don't win any more. And so you see what everybody is gunning for as the round goes on. You can kind of guess what they might be gunning for just by looking at their initial dice. You know, it's like, I don't reckon you're going to try and win 1 trick. I reckon you're going to go for some high ones there. And, you know, the one that is left over is going to be dependent on what players draft, and you'll make decisions based on your drafting. You can take a black die, which means that you're going for no tricks. You're shooting the moon, and I know it's hard to do, but it's worth a lot of points if you do it, and I just love trying to shoot the moon in the trick-taking game. I believe it's shoot the moon, isn't it? Yeah, where you're basically going for broke and saying, right, I'm not going to win any tricks at all. I'm going for it. Let's try and make it happen. And it's tense. It's fulfilling when you do it, but you know, it's not easy. But wow. The way these dice work, the way that the rounds play, this trump suit thing, the trump suit and number, the thinkiness with the other players, wow, this one gets your brain cells firing. It is a unique, cool, quirky, so clever trick taker that utilizing dice that aren't random. I mean, yes, you roll them at the start and they're drafted, but that's it. bunch of dice, like 20 plus dice are rolled, and you draft them one at a time. It's not like you take 4 die, roll them, and see what you get. No, you purposely picked these. So there's not a lot of luck factor other than sort of like what cards you've drawn in that, like standard trick taker, funny enough. You play through a decent amount of rounds, I think 5 rounds, and so the game can take a bit of a long time because people can AP a little bit more with this one. But that aside, when I was first shown this game and they explained the rules to me within 10 minutes, I was like, I love this game, I want a copy, can I get it now? And I haven't been able to get it for years. Well, now I have a copy. You saw it on my top 50. I love this game. This is a fantastic trick taker. Don't go nuts trying to find a copy. It's going to be expensive if you try to find it outside of the UK and that. But if you do find it at Essen, or if somebody wants to show you this game, try it. It's so cool.
Demand suddenly skyrocketed. You all saw it.
Whew, there you go. My 10 favourite trick-taking games at the moment. But there's other ones besides. I mean, if I load up my little iPad here, that's been out of shot all day. Honourable mentions, Brian Boru. So I mentioned trick takers that are shoehorned in kind of like as a side mechanic. Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland, or whatever it was called, is actually a pretty decent version of that. You play tricks in order to do like area control on this board as well as other little mini actions. It's not exactly a looker, but it's an interesting game and I enjoyed it. Certainly a damn sight more than Arcs, which is the other trick taker, but trick taking really does not work for that Arcs game. No way. You can check out my very lengthy, very ranty review about how that one works. But other honourable mentions are Aurum. Aurum, a cool little game where you're playing in teams now and again to grab tricks. Neat little game. It's just not a top 10 wordy one. Movie Tricks, the one I reviewed literally only last week or something, or like a week or two ago. Solid game, really good, gave it an 8 out of 10. It's just not top 10 worthy. It would definitely be somewhere like, maybe not 11, maybe like 12 to 14, something like that. Definitely be in the top 15, though. It's definitely really solid. Macaron, it's, I think it's down there still, or it's in one of those funky cases. And this is an Asian trick-taking game, and it's the macaroon as in the little cakes that you get. And it's again, little cool trick taker. You've got different trump suits. An allergen suit, that's the one that you don't want to get hold of. It's very pretty. It's a nice little quirky game. And then Tricky Badger was another one. I got this from Essen a few years ago. It's a set collection trick taker. Play tricks to get certain cards, and the cards will score in different ways based on what you get. Again, very neat little trick taker. Trying to think if there's any more. There's none on the list, and I can't think of any off the top of my head. But yeah, trick taking is just a fun genre for me. I've grown up with Hearts and various other typical decks of cards style games. We played them a lot as a family. Trick taking would have happened every now and again, but I just gravitate a lot to that mechanic. I don't want it shoehorned in as a side mechanic in a lot of big games. It can work. It can work. But Brian Boru is probably the best example of this so far. And even then, it wasn't enough to make my top 10 trick takers, okay? And I didn't like Arcs. So, it's not something I want to see shoehorned in as a side mechanic, but if you can do it and you can make it work, then by all means, I will go for it and I will try it. I can't guarantee I'll like it, but I'll certainly try it. But just a nice little card game where you can just get bunk, you store a ton of them in one calyx square or put them in the little cases, and you take them to a night. You can have your whole game bag full of nothing but trick takers. I could have a game day at something like HandyCon or GridCon and do nothing but play trick taking games. I could just devote the whole day to just teaching trick takers and I'd be in my element. It's one of my favorite mechanics in games, and yeah, just quirky little card games where you gotta think a little, but you've also got a little bit of guesswork, a little bit of randomness. It combines nicely, and I'm seeing some very interesting trick takers come out lately. It's definitely kind of the new trend, just let's hope it doesn't go the way of rolling moves where people start getting sick of it. It's not a thematic mechanic at the best of times, so it's a very mechanical thing. You need to know what you're doing with it. And yes, you look on BGG, there are some garbage trick-taking games, and I get punts from people, sort of like, oh yeah, there's this one and this one. It's like, but that sounds just very generic. Where's the twist in this? I mean, the crew for Northwood, Fox in the Forest, Nikosu Dice, Niet, Shamans, Movie Tricks even, Luz, all of these have got very unique things about fishing, that one. All of these have got very unique mechanics to make with the trick-taking part. It's not just a generic trick taker. So, it's not easy to design a good one, but when you do, I want it. So, yep, I hope to see a lot more, and by all means, get your details in the comments of trick takers that you love that I haven't mentioned at all that I should be gunning out for. You know, don't make it one that I'm never going to get unless I spend £50 on an import or something. I've already done that with the Kosu dice nearly, but you know, certainly if there's some readily available trick takers and I haven't mentioned them at all, then by all means suggest them. You know, there may be a few I just don't like, but chances are it could be one that I've just not heard of and just not seen, and therefore I need to go and try and find it, but it needs to be readily available. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb up on YouTube and share it about social media. You know, let's tell people about trick takers. This is 10 here, and I'll be interested to know a bucket more from the rest of you. Thanks to the Patreons who help support this channel. You know, to be fair, a lot of the trick taking games I've got here are only doable because of you Patreons, so it's great to have been able to talk about and review these games because you guys support the channel, and I can't thank you enough. So without further ado, take care, remember it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple Top 10 list. Take care.